You've had the MRIs, you've had the CTs, you've spent thousands of dollars and spent hours on end sitting in a cold waiting room, only to have a radiologist say, everything looks fine. But you know that it's not fine, and it's definitely not normal. You feel a clunking in your neck whenever you turn your head. You have a constant, heavy ache in your neck that doesn't go away. And it feels like your head is literally unstable on your shoulders every time you get up to move. The problem isn't that you're not injured. The problem is that an MRI is a still photograph, but you live your life in motion. Today, I'm going to show you why static imaging is the wrong thing to use when evaluating a whiplash injury, and why digital motion X-ray is the only legitimate way to really see the ligament laxity that is keeping you in pain. Let's talk about Kevin, because this case was particularly interesting. He wasn't in a car accident. He was a contractor that was starting to have neck problems because he worked on a scissor lift, and that quick up and down motion was putting a lot of tension in his neck. Eventually, when it really started to bother him and he got imaging, he was told that everything was fine because the MRI didn't show any swelling or ligament tears, and the X-rays didn't show any bone fractures. But when we fast forward this for a couple of weeks, what we started to see was that Kevin's wife thought that he was depressed. His employer thought that he was lazy because he wasn't getting as much work done. And even Kevin started wondering why he felt like he was in pain, but the X-rays didn't show a problem, the MRIs didn't show a problem, but something felt wrong. When Kevin finally came to the office, he brought his MRI imaging with him. And these are awesome, I love looking at these things. But one of the problems with Kevin in particular was that an MRI is taken while you're lying on your back, most of the time. And for Kevin, lying on his back was the one instance where he didn't actually feel neck pain. Now, when that MRI report wasn't showing anything, we sent Kevin out to get digital motion X-ray. That was really eye-opening, because what it showed was that Kevin's C1 vertebrae, the one at the very top of your neck, was shifting 4 millimeters forward whenever he would put his head into flexion. Now, for most of us, 4 millimeters doesn't sound like much, but I always like to remind people that your body doesn't have a lot of extra room for error. So 4 millimeters is a whole lot. And what this indicates is that while his ligaments weren't fully torn, they were overstretched. And since they weren't fully torn, the MRI missed them. Kevin wasn't crazy, it was just that his injury required motion for us to really see what was going on. Think of it this way, if you went to a car dealership and you saw a car that looked completely fine parked on the lot, you wouldn't just buy it and assume everything was fine with the car, you would take it for a test drive. During that test drive, if you're noticing that the steering is a little shaky or that the car is making a strange noise, you know that something else is wrong. But the only way you're going to find that out is if you take the car for a drive. An MRI is equivalent to looking at that car parked in the lot. MRIs are taken while you're lying down. There's no stress on the system. The muscles are relaxed. And they're great for what they're meant to do, which is identifying things in the body like tumors or disc ruptures or fractures if you miss them on an X-ray. But whiplash is an injury to your ligaments. Now, those can also be caught on an MRI, but what an MRI is going to fail to pick up is if that ligament isn't performing its job, still intact, but unable to hold a bone in place. And that's because ligaments are like rubber bands, and we all know that you can overstretch the crap out of a rubber band before it actually rips. This is called ligament laxity, and to see it in action, we need to take a digital motion X-ray. Now, digital motion X-rays, or DMX imaging, are X-ray images taken at 30 frames per second. Think of it like taking an X-ray movie of your body. And in the case of whiplash, we evaluate your neck through its ranges of motion, in particular flexion extension and rotation. And by taking you through this full range of motion, it allows your doctor to get a better idea of how those bones are moving, whether it's not enough, or in Kevin's case, too much. Specifically with a DMX, we are looking for two things that an MRI is almost always going to miss, and these are translation and overhang. Translation is whenever a bone either shifts or slides on top of the bone below it. And especially in your spine, a sliding of 2 millimeters, again, not a long distance, can create a lot of pressure on the muscles in the cervical spine, the arteries and veins going around and through the bones of your spine, and the nervous system itself. Now, the second thing that we're looking at is overhang, specifically in the upper cervical spine. We see this a lot whenever you tilt your head, and what happens is if a ligament is fully torn, and those ligaments are connecting your spine to your skull, you'll see that these upper cervical bones jut out towards the side where the ligament isn't holding them towards the center, and we call this overhang. This is actually a very common reason for cervical vertigo, or that bobblehead feeling that we talked about in the previous video. And this is kind of the crazy thing, because while this isn't going to show up on an MRI, this is actually something that the AMA, the American Medical Association, is going to consider a permanent impairment. It's also why if an injury like this occurs at work or in a car accident, it's super useful information for your lawyer to have. And most importantly, it's crucial for you to know this, because if we can't permanently fix this ligament, then we're going to need to stabilize that joint with what we have left. If you can see that you have an overstretched or even a torn ligament using a DMX, the first thing you need to know is that you should stop stretching that ligament. No one's ever ripped a hole in their pants and thought, man, I should keep squatting in these, that'll make the hole better. No, you need to rest that ligament first and foremost so that it can heal. You can also back up that recovery with type 2 collagen and magnesium to help it heal quicker. But then ultimately you need to strengthen your deep cervical flexors to help keep your head stable. If you're stuck at this stage of your recovery where your radiologist keeps saying that everything looks fine, you need to quit getting the same test done and expecting a different result. You need functional imaging. Now, I'm not trying to sell you on this because I don't even perform DMX imaging at the office, which is why I put together an imaging referral kit that's available down in the description. It's the type of professional documentation that includes the types of CPT codes and clinical justifications for DMX imaging and stress view x-rays. You can take this either to your doctor or your attorney to try to help and ensure you're getting the correct imaging for your injury. And like I said, that's free for download in the link below. Once you get that diagnosis, or if you feel like you can already tell that you're unstable, you need to work on bracing your cervical spine to reinforce muscular stability. In the Whiplash Recovery Blueprint, which is also down in the description, I teach you specific exercises and protocols that I use with my patients to help activate that internal cervical brace to decrease stability from ligament laxity. If those gum bands in your neck are loose, then we need to develop a roll cage to keep those joints stable and those nerves safe. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with x-rays, CTs, or an MRI, but if they're not showing anything and you still have symptoms, you need to quit looking at static imaging. Get the full picture, or in this case, the full video. Get the truth, get a good plan together, and start your recovery as soon as possible. I'm Dr. Beck. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful, and I will see you in the next video.